So at the last Penn State Drupal user group meeting, I mentioned a little thing about having some issues with maps and open layers and possibly making a change here. So Drupal open layers is a very nice mapping module. At some level, it's a little complicated, as you can see from their page. There's a lot of features, there's a lot of submodules. They're going through a transition between Open Layers 2 and Open Layers 3. It says there's no upgrade path because of the Open Layers JavaScript library has made some major changes. So it's looking like it's more complicated than it perhaps used to be, and that there might be some other options. The one option I had looked at and was thinking about was the Leaflet module. It looks a bit lightweight in terms of some of the things you might need. It does have some additional modules that you might want to install. So I wanted to give this a test, primarily because on the Pesta site, I had an issue with this map, basically broke, and I've sort of rebuilt it. And this is basically what it looked like the first time. It's what it looks like now. Just a lot of locations of Pesta members across Pennsylvania. The map, go out, zoom in. So it's a basic map, just a lot of points on the map. It's not terribly complicated. So I wanted to try and fix this. So showing you the result before I get anywhere is here is basically the same map using the leaflet module. I'm not terribly happy with the little markers. I'm going to probably change those. But it works pretty much the same way. Installing Leaflet was pretty easy. You install the main Leaflet module and the JavaScript library. I also wanted two more modules that go with it. The More Maps, which allows you to do things like use Google Maps. And then Leaflet Views comes with the main Leaflet module. You just basically have to install that. There is one other module that I wanted that is this IP geolocation views and maps module, which at some level ends up taking over for Leaflet to do the display of this page. The reason to do that is to set this box and what it's looking at originally. Otherwise, it might try to load an image that has, or a map that has every point on it. We have some people who have joined Pesta who are very far away from Pennsylvania, but we don't necessarily want to see those people immediately. We want to kind of see the folks that are in Pennsylvania first. So the IP geolocation views and maps module kind of allows you to set that bounding box. Open Layers itself, there is a lot of functionality in Open Layers, but it also adds a lot of complications. You've got basic settings, you have the layers, which are what draws the points on the map, and you end up with a lot of, it comes with a lot of things in here. It comes with a lot of defaults for Google Maps and Mapbox and all of these items, but then you have to start designing your own layers to put the data on the map. Then you have to define the maps that you want to use. Here's the member map. There's a default map. While it's really flexible, the projections you don't have to worry about too much. Then you have to have styles. How do you want your markers? How do you want this? How do you want that? You can define different markers on different maps. So it's massively flexible, but that also means that you've got a lot of overhead. You've got a lot of things that you have to change to make this work. Leaflet doesn't really have any options. The More Maps module has some additional if you want to add some more layers here and there, but you don't really have to even do anything here. So how do you set this up, basically? Well, obviously you download, activate the Leaflet modules, the IP geolocation module, and you're ready to go. So here is the view from the original Open Layers system, where basically it says, this is the view that creates the map points. You use this format, you have some settings, you give it fields. In this case, the member location field profile ID field is in there because we're pulling a relationship out of the profile module. Some filters basically saying that the user has to have the profile, they have to be active, and because there's some members in here that have an issue with no address, this little filter just says if there's no postcode, zip code, ignore them. Member location fields, well-known text, full geometry. Basically, that sets the map points. Here, you put the data source in here, same thing. Member location, title field, we don't even really need that. So that's just the data points. Then the member map view is actually what draws the map. Again, you format as the open layers map. That's what you want to choose. You've got the settings for it, where you pick the map that you want to use. You know, it's pretty straightforward. So there's, in this Nittany Vagrant version, the map is actually broken still, but it works. So to do the leaflet map, basically all I did was say, let's add a new page. And that's the view that I end up here, this page 2 view that says Pesta member map dash leaflet. It basically has the same fields, member location profile ID, because it's pulling, well, in this case I don't even have to really do that. Address, member location, not empty. I could probably swap these two out and get rid of the postcode one for a filter. Map settings. In this case, you don't want to use the leaflet map because I want to use the leaflet API via the IP geolocation views and map view. Settings for that. Now, settings, basically all of the things that you get here in open layers, all of these tabs, now kind of end up in the one view, which for me is a little bit simpler to handle, especially for something that's simple. So basically you just have to choose the map that you want. I want a Google map, high res, road and terrain. It gives you the zoom levels from 0 to 21. Give me the map height in pixels. Where is the field that has a lat and longitude? In this case, again, it's the member location. You can have multiple fields. Don't have to worry about that in this case. A lot of other settings that I don't need. Map centering options is important. I want it to center on, in this case I said use a center of gravity based on all locations except the visitor location, da 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 da. Not a big deal. I basically say if I have no location, pick State College as the center because we are pretty much the center of the state. I could just fix this anyway. You know, you can do a couple of different things here, so that's pretty easy. Marker styles. In this case, I've built a little custom marker with some things on it. I'll probably make a better one and then store it in the theme, and then there's a way of setting this markers by going in and it's changing a couple more settings. Change the markers. I want to have a scale on it. I had a reset button on the view, so anytime I go to the view or over here, if I zoom in a bit and I just want to take it back to the default, I hit the little R, it goes back to the default view. Mini maps, a lot of things in here that I don't necessarily need to write. If you want to cluster things and take all those big clusters and turn them into one marker, I could do that too. Cluster aggregation, that's kind of that whole setting there. More map options is important. I need to set the zoom levels a little specifically. I want the initial zoom level to cover Pennsylvania, but I don't want the users to be able to really zoom into somebody down to the street level. I mean, this is as close as we're getting. That's a mile there, so there's all of State College, Bowlesburg, Pleasant Gap. So while I can see where people live in State College, I can't really tell what their address is. So it kind of hides their information a little bit. So that's why the maximum zoom level is 12, not 21. And so that's it. That's basically all you have to do is create that, and then you immediately get this map. You can also, if you want to, this also has a nice little functionality. If I can get it to toggle, it's not doing. I can look at the terrain or just a regular road map. So that's it. It's literally one view but basically the same view as before. I did add this, that the member location latitude is not empty, because there are a few. If I take this filter out, let's remove it, save the view. Any vagrant is not always the fastest thing in the world, so let's go back to the map. Let me reload the map, and we should get a little dialog box. Yeah, there we go. So it complains that out of 591 rows, 3 did not have the location set, so they can't be shown on the map. It tells me which one it was. So it gets the little dialog box is annoying. It's not a problem. I'm not sure the users are going to see it, but why not just put that filter in there? So add, and I want to grab the what? Pass the member location, add this filter, pick the latitude, and say is not null. Save it again. And hopefully that little dialog box will go away. Now, what it's just going to tell me that the view, I've saved the view, so not a big deal. Yeah. So that's it. So to me, for doing something as simple as dropping points on a map, the leaflet module looks a lot easier. What I'm probably going to do is go in and replace all of the existing maps in the pesticide with the leaflet maps, and then see what happens. And then maybe completely uninstall open layers. One, it's like I said, there's a lot of cruft in there. It's probably sucking up a lot of extra memory. I think the open layers JavaScript library is pretty big. I do run into some memory issues on this site, so Leaflet looks to be better. What I'm not sure to do is, in the past, let's see, let's pick up another screen here. The reason I'd really gotten into open layers was because of the layering ability in it and being able to do more than just drop points on a map. At this point, I'm not certain that I can do things like this chapter map, where not only do I have points dropped on the map, the points themselves are colored by the region in which they live, which is a separate layer under the map. So this map has 3 layers: the points, the outlines of the regions in purple and blue and orange, and then the map itself underneath it all. This is a little more complicated. I'm not sure this can be done in Leaflet quite as easily, but I'm certainly going to take a look at it, because I don't want to have to rebuild this whole thing using the new Open Layers library and go back through the whole craziness of doing this. Leaflet will do things like the little pop-ups here. That I'm not worried about. It's just this layering ability of multiple items on top of each other. So that's it. I would take a look at Leaflet if you want something to drop these pins really nicely. Seems to do the job.